And now we'll go into we'll go more into the $1.5 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill, which by accounts, as it says right here, has no chance on Wednesday. Why? Because there's a huge mounting Republican resistance. We will go into the story. Senate Republicans revolted on Monday against opening debate on infrastructure while a bipartisan bill is still being written, lining up in opposition to squeeze a play by Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Schumer and Senate Democrats need at least 10 Republicans to agree to advance a still unwritten deal to spend nearly $600 billion on roads, bridges, and broadband during a vote expected on Wednesday. But both Republican leaders and GOP lawmakers working on the bipartisan infrastructure package carried the same warning for Schumer. He's not going to get 60. Let's put it that way. Senate Minority Whip John Thune. The legislation is not drafted. The pay-fors are a long ways away. Patience is going to be a virtue. But patience has run thin among Democrats, and patience has run thin for me as well. This is a problem and has been a problem for a long time. Our infrastructure gets a grade, depending on what I've read, gets a grade of either D plus or C minus. We're the greatest country in the world. That's a serious problem. To talk about a personal story, a part of it, I used to work downtown, and a part of the overpass fell off and killed a homeless guy. Shattered his skull. Because it's in such disrepair. These are serious problems. Infrastructure is a serious problem. People die every single year from bridges collapsing. There is major congestion in all of New York, in all of America's major cities. And they're worried about pay-fors. Again, it all comes down to money, but they're not worried about the $2 trillion they spend in Afghanistan. No, but they're worried about money when it comes to funding projects for the American people that the American people need. We will see. Because it's always seems to be held up. Now, speaking about money, as they just were, one provision that was in the infrastructure bill to help pay for it was the provision for the IRS. And this bipartisan infrastructure bill loses IRS provision. What does that exactly mean? So, a proposal to strengthen IRS enforcement to crack down on tax scaffolds and help fund a nearly $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure spending bill is officially off the table. Portman, who's involved in negotiating the bill, cited pushback from fellow Republican lawmakers who dislike the idea of expanding the reach of the IRS, which they have accused over the years of unfairly targeting conservatives. He said another reason the IRS provision was shelved is that Democrats are including a more robust enforcement plan in a separate $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill that they intend to pass through the Senate using special budget rules and without Republican votes. I haven't seen what they're planning on doing. I haven't heard anything about it. He's in talks, so maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. But the problem is that they can never agree with anything. And this is definitely a problem because the IRS would go after the majority of the wealthy. It would get a lot of that money in unpaid taxes that the wealthy are not paying. And of course, the Republicans don't want that to happen because they don't want the IRS to go after their base. It's not unfair that they target Republicans. That just seems to be that more Republicans find loopholes in their taxes. Or that I shouldn't say that. No, I correct myself. the ultra rich billionaires and the 1%, which lean conservative, seem to find loopholes in their taxes. I'm sure there's a lot of money out there that could be funding these projects. Make them pay their fair share. Make the billionaires, make the companies make the religious organizations pay their fair share. And then I would really be surprised if we didn't have too much money to pay for social issues. You'd have so much money to pay for immigration reform, infrastructure, Medicare for all, free college, free education. Very interesting. But no, the money, at the end of the day, it's always the money we come back to. Seems like everybody wants a piece of this pie for the infrastructure bill. DeFazio warns he's no rubber stamp for the Senate infrastructure bill. Another hang-up in this. But he at least has a decent reason for it. The top House Democrat overseeing transportation policy is warning that he'll reject the Senate infrastructure package currently under negotiation without significant changes. Representative Peter DeFazio of Oregon, chairman of the House of Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, has a long list of objections to the Senate framework, many of them related to climate provisions he finds lacking. And he's warning that he won't just rubber stamp a bipartisan Senate agreement, should one materialize, without portions of his own transportation proposal being incorporated. Said, and this is a quote, "It's a whole lot of problems we have, and we're expressing our concerns, and we want an opportunity to actually negotiate the final bill, not just be handed the Senate bill and say this is it." So, this guy's playing good politics. By saying this, he's officially got himself into the room. He's got himself a seat at the table. And now he's in talks. You know, this is a big bill, and everybody wants a piece of it. And the problem is they're going to try to pass it. They're going to try to squeak it through with as little provisions as possible. They're slashing them as we go. They're already gutting it with that IRS provision. And we're going to talk about how the other bill is getting gutted as well, which may be getting gutted for its immigration reform already before it's even drafted. The immigration reform may already be gutted. But right here he's saying that he wants a piece of this pie. So DeFazio has his own ideas, bashing the Senate framework as insufficient for meeting the nation's infrastructure challenges. He wants to have lawmakers from each chamber work through the break to broker an agreement between his proposal, a $715 billion package passed earlier this month, and the Senate bill. We have all of August. We have until October 1st. We pass the bill, they pass the bill. We don't have to take their bill as written. Then we have a conference over August and September, and then come to a conclusion by October 1st. So he's just wanting to slow it down. He wants to send over this bill, and he's not willing to do it. So it's going to be interesting. The main reason it's going to be interesting is right here, because as we read earlier, some Democrats have suggested that if the Senate attempt bipartisan infrastructure bill fails, which they believe that it will, they can simply shift the physical infrastructure provisions into a second larger package of social benefits and environmental programs party leaders are hoping to move by reconciliation. Procedural gambit, which removes the filibuster as a barrier and would allow Democrats to pass the proposal without a single GOP vote, because they would only need 51%. They would only need a simple majority, and they can't filibuster it. But there's a hang-up with reconciliation, because DeFazio is rejecting the strategy, noting that new policy provisions in the House transportation package would likely not pass muster with the Senate parliamentarian, who is charged with enforcing obscure rules governing reconciliation. No, you can't have transformative new policies in reconciliation, he said. So, that's interesting. He knows there's going to be problems, that there's already problems with these bills. bipartisan is a ridiculous name because no one's actually bipartisan in Washington. They're all out for themselves.